I'm Rebecca Baldwin. I'm the Executive Director at the Saratoga Center for the Family. And I'm here again for our coffee chat. I have my coffee. I also have extra supplies this morning. I've got a mandala coloring page that we're going to be using. Tell you guys all a little bit about some of the items that you may need if you want to follow along with our presenter this morning. This particular coffee chat is on mindfulness matters, and we'll be talking about how we utilize mindfulness for mental wellness with one of our therapists at the center. Her name is Tiffany St. Tiffany is a licensed clinical social worker who has worked at all of our programs basically at this point. She's been in our clinic, our community-based program, and our school-based program. So she has quite a bit of experience working with children, adults, families in a number of different settings. She's currently a school-based therapist in the South Glens Falls School District, and this particular webinar she has adapted for us today from a presentation which she provides specifically in the school-based setting. So she's going to be leading us through some mindfulness activities during the presentation. And if you're interested in participating in any of the activities, there are some items that you will need to gather, and I'll give you a couple minutes to do so. The first one is a mindful eating activity, and for that you will need a piece of candy or something that can easily melt, like a Hershey's Kiss or a Starburst. The second activity is a mindful coloring activity, and that's why I have my mandala, which I easily downloaded and printed from a website called mondaymandala.com. That's all one word, Monday Mandala. So if you need a second to do a Google search and print out a page, that was pretty quick and easy. And crayons or colored pencils as well, you'll need for that. And then for a mind jar activity, you will need a water jar, glitter glue, glitter, and food coloring. And I don't allow glitter in my house, so I will not be participating in that one. But if you guys do have glitter on hand, that is a fun activity to follow along with. So while I go through our general housekeeping stuff, feel free to run around and grab your supplies. We utilize the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it, you kind of have to hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen and it will appear, and then you can ask questions as we go along, as they come up for you, and we will get to as many of those questions as we can. The webinar is being recorded, and we will post it on our website once it's over so that it's available for you to watch again along with the slides, so that you can utilize those for the future. And of course, any questions that you have that don't get answered today, or if there are any questions that come up for you after the presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the center. Our next webinar after this one, so I don't forget to tell everybody, is going to be June 12th. So keep an eye out for the registration information on that. And I think we've got everybody signed on now. And so I'm going to bring on Tiffany. Let's see if I can do it. You might have to start your own video, Tiffany. There she is.
Hello.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everybody for coming and joining today. I hope you get whatever it is that you're looking for from this. And, you know, like Rebecca said, you know, this will be recorded, you know.
Uh-oh. It looks like maybe we lost Tiffany. Hold on one second. It does look like we lost her. If everybody could hold on a couple minutes, I will see if we can get her back and going again. She's back. All right. Hopefully you're here to stay.
Yes, hopefully.
All right. Continue on.
All right, it's not showing right now, the PowerPoint.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that, guys. So we're going to be talking about mindfulness today. If you can go ahead and move forward to the next slide here. So one of the most important things about mindfulness is, a lot of the times our body is here in the present, but unfortunately our mind is not always in the same place. So our mind can either be in the past, present, or future, and that really helps get in the way of us being able to stay focused and just be present. Go ahead, next slide. So we're going to watch a little video here. This, of course, is mainly towards middle schoolers, but I think it's something we can all kind of relate to, having been middle schoolers or having middle schoolers ourselves. So just stay with us and watch this brief video.
Middle school can be really hard sometimes.
One of my biggest stresses is the homework at school. Sometimes you get piles and piles and piles. You get projects and more projects plus homework.
Like, I need to get it done.
I'll be doing my homework and then the phone rings.
You want to answer it, you want to look at it, but at the same time, you don't.
There's so many things you can do on the phone.
I use social media, Twitter, Instagram. I text my friends, I watch YouTube, etc.
There have been stupid arguments over text messages sometimes. I am not sure what they're going to say, how they're going to say it. What should I say back to them? When I hit send, my fingers all trembling because I'm like, is this the right thing to say? Should I say something else? Should I just send it? No. Send it? No. Press send. It's done. Now I gotta wait for the response.
As a 7th grade girl, the popular kids might say, you should do your hair like this, you should wear this kind of makeup, you should do just things like that to get girls to be like worried about what people think.
And it's a lot of pressure to not be wearing makeup, so you never know if you're like as pretty as the people who are wearing makeup.
My friends were getting bullied a lot because the 8th graders and the 7th graders think that they're the best.
Sometimes people aren't nice to you, and that's how it is in the real world, but it gets to be a lot, and it just makes me upset.
I think people are afraid people are gonna be talking about them. Like if you feel embarrassed or if you made a mistake or something, then I just feel very trapped.
It feels awful, so I try to do everything perfect.
My schedule is tense, busy, and really tiring because I actually cram a lot of things into one day.
I have due dates, I have school, I have activities with band. It clutters in my mind, and I think, how am I going to deal with this?
I kind of just start to shut down.
Well, my stomach always feels like very in knots.
I think my brain's on overdrive. There's a bunch of papers just flying through my brain, and there's people running around, and there's a fire in there. I get a lot of anxiety when I have a lot of pressure put on me. Pressure.
Expectation.
It's a lot to take in when you know it's on you.
You can begin by closing your eyes, getting in a posture where your back is straight, steady like a mountain, but your muscles are soft and relaxed. And then go ahead and bring your hand up to your chest, placing it over your heart or on your chest, wherever it feels comfortable. And then just feel your body breathe, just noticing as you inhale the rising of your chest, as you exhale the falling of your chest. And just staying with this gentle rhythm of your breathing. And you might have some thoughts that come in, that you become distracted. That's okay. That's the nature of the mind. We just gently redirect our attention and come back to feeling our hand on our stomach as we breathe. And when you're ready, you can put your hands down and open your eyes. Attention and we concentrate on feeling our breathing, it can help to calm down that storm that we might be feeling, that sense of overwhelm or frustration or upset. Because one thing that happens is that we can get stuck thinking that whatever we're thinking, feeling, or feeling physically won't change, especially if it's unpleasant. But actually, the more attention, kind attention that we give to it, the more that it will start to release. So mindfulness gives us this choice. It gives us this freedom to choose how to respond as opposed to react right away. Does that make sense?
When you listen to your heart and you hear the sound, it really calms you down and you feel really loose and free.
I do get a lot of stress and I take on a lot of things, and to be able to allow myself to relax and see things clearly is definitely a huge thing that I need to work on.
Some of my friends, they don't take tests very well, and I know that meditating would help them relax more and it'll help them to do better.
I think using those practices in the future to try and calm yourself will really help and relieve a lot of the stress that middle school brings.
Good.
So I'd like to introduce this video because this video really kind of even walks you through the experience of being overwhelmed by all that sensory input, and then help also to kind of bring you down. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay, so mindfulness, essentially what it is it's something that as a human, all of us have this ability to naturally do. It's about being fully present, being aware of where we are and what we are doing. And like I said, it's just something naturally we possess, but we don't always tap into. When we bring awareness to exactly what we're experiencing at that moment and our awareness of all of our senses, it can help to kind of calm our thoughts and just bring our mind to a more relaxed state. So here's another video. I really like to show videos because mindfulness is one of those things that it's one of those buzzwords. You hear therapists talking about it all the time. You hear about other people talking about it, but a lot of people don't necessarily exactly understand what it is. So these videos do a really good job in kind of being able to show that and helping you have a better understanding.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so we have one more video here.
Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it to be. Maybe they have an idea it's about stopping thoughts or eliminating feelings, but the reality is a bit different. An easy way to think of it is to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a busy road, the passing cars representing the thoughts and the feelings. All you have to do is to sit there and watch the cars. Sounds easy, right? But what usually happens is that we feel a bit unsettled by the movement of the traffic. So we run out into the road and try and stop the cars, or maybe even chase after a few, forgetting that the idea was to just sit here. And of course, all of this running around only adds to the feeling of restlessness in the mind. So training the mind is about changing our relationship with the passing thoughts and feelings, learning how to view them with a little more perspective. And when we do this, we naturally find a place of calm. Will we sometimes forget the idea of the exercise and become distracted? Of course we will. But as soon as we remember, here we are, back on the side of the road again, just watching the traffic go by, perfectly at ease in both body and mind.
So these videos kind of give you a good idea on what I'm talking about when I'm talking about mindfulness, and also how to achieve it. In this day and age, we are very fortunate because all it is a matter of looking on your phone, going to an app, and there are so many different apps that you can use that can help you be able to learn how to practice mindfulness. I will say I really like the Headspace app. That app is awesome because it does and has a lot of these videos that kind of talks you through and introduces mindfulness, and then also has varying different recordings for different problems, whatever it may be. So benefits, there are a huge amount of benefits, and this is, I'm sure there's a lot more even than what I have listed here. But as you know, the video showed a lot of them too, so controlling your temper, fending off depression, in this time and age also where we're so big into technology, even more so now than what we were before all of this pandemic. really being able to find time to be able to do this is that much more important. And help being able to manage your anxiety and help to manage kind of avoiding this burnout that we get from using so much technology. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but those are some multiple benefits for mindfulness. And as you can see, because since I do this generally for middle schoolers and for students, and I'm sure some of you are also are parents, or you work with students, or these are some benefits that I like to show to kids to show how beneficial and try and getting them to buy into mindfulness. So it helps to improve their attention, their emotion regulation, greater compassion for themselves, for others, then also helps to reduce their stress and anxiety. So what we're going to do now is this is a video known as a mindful minute. So we're going to actually practice a mindful minute. So this video is going to play. It will instruct you on what to do. At the end, you're going to hear a timer. Sorry, not a timer, a bell, and that'll kind of help you know that it has ended. But while you do this, be in a comfortable position. If you're comfortable, close your eyes, just listen. If you're not comfortable with that, then you can keep your eyes open. All right, let's try a mindful minute here. So with a minute, a lot of the times that can feel like, nothing and feel like it goes by extremely quickly. Other times when we really have to be present and focus, it can seem like it's so much longer. But it really isn't that long, and we can get a benefit from mindfulness just in as briefly as a minute. So we're not going to necessarily get time to dive into all of these activities, and I have a list of different ones, but I wanted to provide you guys with as many different options, especially since this is being recorded, and you can always look back on it and come back to it if you have any other thoughts, or you want to try a different one that maybe we didn't get through. So we're going to go through a couple of these, and we'll see how we do on time and how many we're able to get through. So hand breathing. This is one I always joke with kids, because kids get very embarrassed when it comes to, having to do anything that kind of makes them stand out or seem different. And mindfulness, a lot of the times we have to find activities in mindfulness to do in different settings. So when it's in school or when it's at work and you're trying to just manage your own emotions and your own racing thoughts, this can be a good thing that you can do. So a lot of times when I start out, I always have people, start out putting their hand out. But when I tell them when they're doing this at other times, you can do this by just having your hand under the desk. But this is just for an example. So essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking 5 deep breaths in and out. You're going to use your other hand, your pointer finger, whatever finger you want to use. And you're going to trace your hand. So this is going to be, and you're not going to go really quick, because then you're not going to get the benefit. You're going to take a nice slow deep breath in as you go up the finger, and then as you come down the finger, you're going to be taking a nice slow deep breath out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to practice this. So we're going to take a nice slow deep breath in, hold it for a second, and then let it out. And again. Hold it. Out. And again. And if you do this slow enough, you should be able to notice a bit of a difference in how you're feeling. Your body's gotten more oxygen. You're able to be a little bit more focused. And sometimes if you need to, you can definitely do this more than once. So mindful eating. So this one, you're going to want to get your candy or whatever it is that you have. You know, a lot of the times in our society, we are trying to rush through. Very rarely do we actually sit down and enjoy our food. We're trying to rush to the next thing, or trying to get this done or that done, or we just don't have a lot of time because we have other things that we want to do. So mindful eating is another way that we can always practice, because we have to eat. We have to eat to survive. So changing the way that we eat can also help us practice our mindful practice. So what we're going to do is everybody can go ahead and unwrap whatever it is that they have. I'm going to get a timer started here. You can go ahead and put your candy or cough drop or Starburst or whatever it is that you have. And here's the tricky part. Now, it's not as tricky for some people as it is for others. But what you're going to do is you're just going to let it sit in your mouth. You can move it around in your mouth, but you are not to chew it. You know, and we're going to try and practice that and see how many of you are able to still have that object in your mouth, with that food object, whatever it is, in your mouth by the time the 2 minutes are up. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put mine in my mouth, and I'm going to start the timer. So there you go, 2 minutes. You know, when you're doing this, and even now, after the 2 minutes is up, you know, thinking back on how did that food taste? How did it make you feel? You know, when we eat certain foods, it can make us feel more sluggish, or it can make us feel recharged. You know, if it's chocolate, is it a smooth chocolate? Is it dark chocolate? Is it white chocolate? Is it milk chocolate? Are there other flavors that are in there? Really paying attention to these things. It helps you slow down also when you eat, so you're not rushing through. Okay, good. Next slide. So wine jars. I unfortunately, a lot of my stuff is still left at the school, so I can talk you guys through this, but I already have my wine jar. You can really use any kind of water bottle. My favorite to use with kids, of course, is the Voss water bottle because they're plastic and it's got a second top. I also usually super glue the top on so nobody tries to open it and drink it. But essentially what you do is you take the glitter glue, you squeeze a whole bunch of the glitter glue into the bottle. You want to make sure that the bottle's not completely full of the water because you want to have a lower amount just because the water will rise as you add more things into it. As I'm doing this, I'm actually, a lot of the times I'll do it going along, reading the book, Moody Cow Meditates. And it really kind of talks you through, and you can kind of adapt this to however you want. I also have a couple of other things in here that I like to do with kids. Because I like to also help bring awareness to positive things, not just the worries that they're having. So when they're using it, they can actually be able to be thinking about those positive things too. So when you shake it up, the glitter glue breaks down. I actually have a couple of gems. I don't think you guys can really see it, but there's a couple of gems in there. And those gems in there are the happy memories or happy things that make them feel happy. Then you also use regular glitter and you shake in a little bit of glitter, however amount of that glitter for each worry thought. I try not to overwhelm kids. I usually limit them to maybe like 5 worries. And happy thoughts, I may do like 5 happy thoughts. You can also, I didn't do it with this one, but the food coloring, what you can do is you can actually change the color of the water too, so that it caters maybe more to like their happy color or their favorite color, so that they can use this at any point in time. The amount of glitter glue that you put in will also change the amount of time that it takes for the glitter to completely settle to the bottom. So this one has actually more glitter glue than some of the other ones that I've done before. So it takes longer for the glitter to all settle to the bottom. But this is a really fun activity. You can use a glass jar if you want, but I know with kids, I generally don't like using glass because it can break at any point. So I always find that plastic is better. But great activity. And like I said, the book that I used to go along with it is Moody Cow Meditates. So mandalas, you know, a lot of times mandalas have become, over the past couple of years, they've become really big, especially with adult coloring books. Mandalas, you know, essentially what they are at their core is they're circles. And if you look around, everywhere you look, there are circles. There is a circle at the bottom of this bottle. There is a circle on our body, you know, the center point of our body, our belly button, or, you know, just our eyes, our mouth. They're circles. Circles are all around us. And essentially, this is exactly what mandalas are. You know, the importance of mandalas is they offer, you know, balancing of both your visual elements and symbolizing unity and harmony. Most people don't realize this, but a mandala, the amount of time that it takes to color a mandala can be anywhere between 45 minutes to 60 minutes or more, depending upon how detailed your mandala is. The more detailed it is, the longer that it takes. Next slide, please. So when you're coloring a mandala, it's always important that you start at the center and you work your way outwards. Use whatever colors that are drawn to you. You know, colors, of course, have different meanings, but, you know, use just what draws to you. Before you start this activity, what I want you to do is I want you to first set your intention for what this activity will be and what your intentions are and what you want to get out of this. This is the same thing that we do with mindfulness, meditation. You know, it's really important to kind of set our intentions. And it helps us to then kind of be able to focus a little bit more on being able to complete the task at hand. So what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to give you guys about, say, 5 minutes or so to take some time and start your mandalas. So go ahead, get your mandalas out, get your coloring pencils out, and just take some time and enjoy the experience and see how it goes. I even have mine actually right here, so I will be coloring along with you guys. And I will go ahead and I'll start a timer. So we'll take 5 minutes to do this. and go ahead and start. Okay, and then there is time. So normally, of course, you would take a lot more time in doing this, but even taking 5 minutes at a time, I know that a lot of people get very busy, and it's hard to really set aside 45 minutes to an hour to fully engage in this activity. But really, any amount of time, whether it's you do it straight or you take breaks in between, it's a really good activity. It also kind of brings us back to our childhood when we used to color and kind of weren't as worried about things as much. And that's part of what has kind of brought this back into a big popular thing to do. All right, so these next ones are going to be a little bit harder to follow along to, but I wanted to try and give you guys as many different possible activities and ways of doing this. Some of these things can be done as a group or as a game. Others, you can do it by yourself. So mindful steps. Essentially what you're doing and when you're being mindful, especially when you're barefoot, our feet have so much sensory input that we take in as we go and we walk. So when we walk barefoot, it's much different as opposed to when we're walking with shoes on. So what you do with this activity is, you make a very clear boundary on where it is that you're going to go. If you're doing it with your kids or with a group of people, you want to make sure that they all have clear boundaries and therefore aren't going to be bumping into each other or walking into each other. So as a group, you select a small area where both you guys will walk in a straight line. You take 5 or 6 steps, of course, and then be able to take 5 or 6 steps backwards. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. It kind of breaks it down a little bit more specifically. So when you begin this activity, you begin by taking, you begin by taking 3 slow, deep breaths in and out. Again, you're setting yourself to start this activity and get in kind of the right mindset to be able to be present. So you've set the direction and you've set places where everybody's going to go, so you're going to take your breaths while you're walking and taking those 5 steps in each direction, in one direction, and then you're going to turn around and take another 5 to 6 steps back. While you're walking, if you're doing this and instructing it for someone else, or if you're doing it yourself, kind of pay attention and ask yourself a couple of questions. What does the ground feel like under my feet? Is it hard? Is it sharp? Is it smooth? Is it soft? Is it sand? Is it grass? Is it wet? Is it sticky? Pay attention to those kinds of things. Which part of your feet are touching the ground first? Is it your toes? Is it your heel? People walk differently. You may not realize it and be aware of exactly how you take that step. Does your body feel heavy? Does it feel light? We all know somebody that's a heavy walker. Whether people are lighter walkers, paying attention to those kinds of things. Are you slouching when you walk? Are you standing up tall? Trying, again, just paying attention more to how your body is and how it feels. You don't need to change anything. Just bring your awareness to this as you're taking these steps. Okay, now here's a good one that can be a fun game, especially as a family, is balancing on one foot. A lot of us, at least I can speak for myself, I am not the most balanced person, and when it comes to walking, I can simply break an arm just walking. So this is a good activity to help even just with balance, but it can also be a fun game. So what you do is, you're going to be standing on one foot. But first, before you do that, you're going to find a focal point, usually just below eye level. So that kind of helps to gain a little bit more balance as opposed to if you're just like looking around. Especially for people that are just beginning in this kind of practice and doing these kinds of things, it's really good to have that one focal point. And while you're doing that, you're then going to end up standing on that one leg and seeing how long you can balance for. It's okay. I know it only may be a couple of seconds, but the more you practice this, the better that you will get, the better your balance overall will be. And then you can also switch. You can also make this more challenging as you kind of get better handles on this and hold a conversation. Moving your eyes around, looking at a different location. you know, it can be a real kind of game or activity that you can do as a family. I'm sure a lot of us probably remember, and some of us may not, but that's okay, may remember as kids having to do like relay races with an egg on the spoon, and you have to try and get from one end to the other without that egg falling off the spoon. This brings it to a little bit more of a challenge. The same type of concept, except for this time you're using a spoon. Oops, I apologize for that. This time you're using a spoon and water. And you have to try and walk from one end, one side to another without spilling any of the water. And again, this can be a nice, fun kind of game to be able to incorporate with, you know, anybody. It can be a group of friends, it can be kids, it can be a family, but creating a little bit more of a challenge. And then also create it and bring it up even more challenging by maybe walking backwards or walking sideways, and see how you do with that. So here's a fun one that people like to be, you know, play around with paint, and it's not something that you have to be artistic about. It's really having, you know, you're gonna, you know, the ingredients that are listed there. So you need like a stock card or kind of just a heavier paper, you know, watercolors, paintbrushes, and straws. Essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna create your art, but you're not gonna paint with a paintbrush. The paintbrush is only to get the paint onto the paper. You're gonna actually use the straw, as you can see in the picture, to blow the paint around. I know that there's been videos like out there on the internet where people do similar type of things, where they go and they pour paint on it, and they have like the paint, the actual canvas is like spinning around. It's kind of a similar concept, except for this one includes your breathing. You know, and mindfulness is, again, is about bringing our focus back to our breath and really improving our breathings. And so many times we don't breathe correctly. We breathe very shallowly unless we bring more of attention to it and start taking those deeper breaths. So another little fun activity. If you're doing it with kids too, another cool thing is that you can get a picture from the dollar store and you can frame it, and then they have it as a reminder. So this is just, this is the kind of the last of it. Like I said, this is just kind of just activities, you know, different ways of trying to incorporate mindfulness. I really kind of like this loving and kindness meditation. So, you know, you only do it for about a minute or so, or however many times you want to do it, but it's a matter of repeating to yourself, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be filled with kindness and peace. You can, of course, also substitute you or I and kind of adapt this. But when we say things and repeat things to ourselves, it gets into our mind and we start to actually believe it. There's a fun activity that I kind of like to do when I'm doing this in person, and that is I have somebody repeat a positive thing to themselves. And I have them put their arm out. And when they're doing that, I try and go and see if I can push their arm down. When they say a positive thing, it takes a lot of force, and a lot of times I can't. Then I have them go and do it again. And this time, I have them say negative things to themselves. I'm ugly, I don't like myself, no one likes me, everybody hates me, or whatever. And then I go and I do it again. A lot of times I can push the arm down. To bring it back, I go back to do another positive. So just so we end on a more positive note. Yawning and stretching. I'm sure a lot of us are probably doing this a lot lately with sitting at a computer and needing to kind of move around because it's just not comfortable sitting in front of a computer all day. So you can either, you know, fake a yawn, and that will also trigger a natural yawn. But when we yawn, we're also taking a deeper breath. It opens up our lungs more. And while we do that, we can slowly kind of stretch our different muscles and kind of get things moving. And as we're stretching, we can repeat something to ourselves like ease or relax as we're doing that. So you do that for about the stretching portion of that for about 10 seconds. Once you're done with that, then you take it about another 20 seconds and just kind of notice. Notice is what is different. Notice where that tension was. You know, notice and practice some more self-compassion and kindness for yourself. I know this next one, it's kind of hard, but as a family, of course, we can still do it. And that is, 3 hugs with 3 big breaths. So when you hug somebody, it's comforting. We need that human connection. We need that human touch. So as you're doing that, you take in slow, deep breaths. And even if you can't get the other person to do the deep breaths, them feeling you doing those breaths can also have that same kind of benefit and effect as if they were doing it themselves. Then just quickly, practicing yoga, reciting positive affirmations. Another fun one, blindfold food tasting. I know this was always something I enjoyed as a kid, trying to figure out what it was that I was tasting. But then there's always the scary part, making sure you can trust the person that's doing it, so they're not putting something really spicy or whatever in your mouth. But still, fun activity. Another kind of fun activity, playing red light, green light, making it helps to work on this mindfulness activity without even realizing it. Connecting with nature and also guided meditations. All over YouTube, you can find different kind of guided meditations for anxiety, for sleep, for depression, for self-esteem, all different kinds. You just got to take the time to look out. Well, that is the end of my slides for today. Thank you all for joining, and I guess we'll see if anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, Tiffany.
You're welcome.
I continue doing my mandala as you were talking because I'm a color addict. It's one of my mindful activities that I do regularly. So, and I'm a purple and yellow are my colors for some reason. I always do those. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Hopefully that gave you guys a lot of ideas about how to use activities. A lot of these things we don't even think about as being mindfulness practice. Along the lines of the coloring piece, I'll say for myself, when the whole COVID-19 thing began and we were just starting to kind of be at home and quarantined, and stress was very, very high, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. And for me, as the executive director of the center, there was a lot of stress, professionally, and then also, of course, personally. And I just automatically started coloring. I have a lot of the adult coloring books, and I like the mandalas as well. And I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I was spending a good amount of time during my lunch breaks while I was eating, kind of coloring as well. And then at the end of the day, I would color, and it was really, really kind of like this centering thing that I just naturally gravitated towards. So we're often doing some of these things and not even really recognizing, what the reason is that we're doing that or why we're drawn to it. My husband actually made a joke that I was going to color my way through quarantine. And so I have colored a lot of pictures. But if nobody has any other questions, we're going to post this on our website. There was, this is one that you probably want to refer back to. You'll have the slides as well. And we'll also list some of the resources like the book that Tiffany mentioned for which one was that? The Mind Jar. Yeah, so that you guys can refer back to that. All right, well, thank you for joining us. I hope you guys all stay well, and do watch out for our next webinar announcement, which will be coming out, and that will be June 12th. All right, have a wonderful day.
Bye guys, thank you.